We have a lot of incentives, but the best incentive for us is we're actually sincere in trying to make the world a better place. We actually think these services make your life better, and you can always say, I don't want part of it.
Do taxes make the world a better place?
Well, taxes are certainly necessary to pay for governments.
Well, the trouble is, though, the argument this side of the Atlantic is that you don't pay your due taxes this side, that you avoid them by handily transshipping to other entities in order to avoid them.
Well, there are many, many ways in which we're investing in Britain. Let me give you some examples. We've got a couple thousand employees. We're spending £1 billion in development of a King's Cross area in Greater London. We've done lots and lots of philanthropic work. We have, for example, I launched a big deal with Raspberry Pi, which is an amazing Cambridge-built computer. So we're quite committed to Britain for all sorts of reasons. The tax regime is sort of the way international taxes work. And we pay our taxes, and we pay them fair and square. And if the tax laws change, obviously we would follow that.
Of course, what you're doing is legal, but it is avoiding tax. And the question is that right?
Well, my understanding of the tax law is that if the taxes say this, this is what you do. And this is exactly what we're doing.
Well, you have said in the past that's capitalism, and we're proudly capitalistic. I'm not confused about this. But at the same time, you do have this code of conduct for employees. Don't be evil. And that's why I'm pressing you on the difference between what is legal and illegal and the difference between what is right and wrong. And they're not the same thing.
With respect to taxes, our view is we pay the taxes that are due everywhere. And we have a structure that works well for us, which is used by many other firms. Beyond that, I would disagree with you with the use of the word evil. In the Google Do Not Evil is really about creating judgment points so that people can ask this question. We have looked at this many, many times. We would much prefer to invest in the people, hire people, invest in the partnerships and the entrepreneurs and so forth in Britain than anything else, and we're doing that aggressively.
This is one of your biggest markets. Do you see us likely as not to go into triple-dip recession? Are you concerned about the state of the British economy in this market in which you're so prominent?
I think it's important that the British government find a way to get the economy growing again. I am worried about this triple dip, and especially the reliance on Europe, because Europe, it looks like it's in a sort of long, slow period for many, many years because the structure way in which the euro is structured.
So, in a sense, if this is plan A, you would urge consideration of a plan B.
Well, the American model is much more stimulative than what we're seeing in Europe because of perhaps history, and inflation and other sorts of things. Europeans and British people seem to be much more concerned about the bond market, for example, than you find in America. And so from our perspective, the U.S. recovery has been stronger, perhaps because of the stimulative effects of the Fed in the United States and so forth. Europe and Britain have chosen not to follow that for many, many reasons. It's probably hampered their growth.
Now, I mean, a lot of what is in your book, which is futuristic but clearly deliverable, ranging from the glasses to the whole business of driverless cars and the rest of it, will involve people in having to buy products. And I'm just wondering whether, given your misgivings about the current state of the economy, even if it hasn't affected Google thus far, when you go down the road of actually bringing in expensive product that you've done a lot of expensive design work on, whether you'd be confident that Britain would be a good market for you.
I'm sure Britain will be a good market for us because the kind of technologies that we talk about in our book are really technologies that improve people's productivity and are typically on a declining cost curve. So the great miracle of technology is that the products just get cheaper and cheaper and they become more affordable. So even if when they start in the first year they're relatively expensive, by the third or fourth year pretty much everybody can afford them. That's sort of why technology is different from most other markets. Furthermore, we know that the British consumer is extremely sophisticated, buys things very early, and cares a lot about knowledge and creativity, all of which we feature in the book. In the book, what we talk about is a new set of ways of organizing information, how the world around you will change because of the kind of computing power that's possible, and people will like those products. Over the next 5 to 10 years, they're going to be coming from Google and others.
Well, one of the most exciting aspects of what you talk about is the idea that there will be 5 billion people wired up to the internet within the next 5 years, that you could be talking about the developing world developing very much faster as a result of the spread of web access. What gives you the confidence that people who can barely feed themselves will, for some reason, somehow manage to access the web and profit thereby?
Well, we've actually been running that experiment for a while, and the answer, of course, is people who could barely feed themselves all have mobile phones now. People love to communicate, and these mobile phones that they're using are called feature phones. They don't have browsers. But in the next couple of years, a set of telephones that are sort of like smartphones, like what we have in the developed world, in Britain and in the United States and others, will become available to them. And so we know that when they get browser-centric phones, they'll be able to solve a lot of problems, all in one setting. Imagine in a village in a poor country where you have no textbooks, nothing writing, you have almost no communication, and a cell phone arrives with a browser with access to all the world's information in your language. That's a life-defining day. That's a day where all of a sudden education can be fixed, medicine can be fixed, on and on. And think about it, having visited these countries, these people are dying for this kind of information because they don't have any health care. They're worried about the future of their children. All of a sudden they can, for example, figure out if they should take the fish out of the water and send it to the market or keep the fish in the water because the prices are too low and there's too much spoilage. But over and over again, what we see is that information empowers these people in extraordinary ways.
Google's executive chairman, Eric Schmidt, speaking to me earlier from New York. One more item of business news. Strike action will hit services at larger post offices next Monday. Members of the communications were in a dispute